All right, so Joyce just has arrived. Before we begin this Board of Health meeting, I do have an introduction. I'll begin reading. This open meeting of the Minden Board of Health is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's updated guidance on holding meetings pursuant to the act extending certain COVID-19 measures that was signed into law on June 16, 2021. This act includes an extension until March 31st, 2023 of the remote meeting provisions of March 12, 2020. Executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Minden Board of Health is convening by video telephone conference as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. This meeting will feature public comment. The time is now 7:05, and I hand it over to the chairman of the board, Ellen Greenberg.
Thank you very much. First thing on the agenda is the flu clinic update.
All right, the flu clinic is now scheduled for Tuesday, October 18th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Misco Gymnasium. That is in partnership with the Salmon VNA. I have posted this information on various Facebook links given to me by Dan Beyer and Ellen Agro. This will also be posted by the sign that's going to be posted, I believe, by Route 16, and I believe the second week of October, and it's going to state that there's a flu shot clinic at the Misco Gymnasium on October 18th.
That's the public safety thing you're talking about,
yeah,
Jack?
yeah.
Okay.
And what were the hours again?
5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, October 18th.
Right.
And that was also go ahead.
It's the only clinic we're having.
There is a senior clinic. I'm not too sure when that is. That is before hours. But Amy from the Senior Center is going to be putting that into her newsletter, hers and ours.
Excellent.
But the Senior Center is having their own clinic done.
Good.
It is also posted on the Board of Health website and also the main page of the Minden website.
Is the same social media links being used for the senior one as well as the regular one, Jack?
I just took the links that Dan and Ellen gave me. I'm not too sure what Amy's using for social media.
Jack, what did you say?
The reason I ask is
oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay, Joyce. How you doing?
Good.
I was just gonna say it may be worth being consistent. I know it's specifically for the seniors, but just to keep the consistency of the notification, I would say we use the same to broadcast it out as much as possible, not only for the regular one, but also for the seniors one. That's all.
Okay, I'll speak with Amy tomorrow about what she's using for social media.
Yeah, okay. That's my thought. Thanks.
Jack, what did you say the times were for that?
Tuesday, October 18th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay.
And again, that is available on the main page of the Minden website and also on the Board of Health page of the website. So that's it for the flu clinic update.
Excellent. Great job. Next item is hazardous waste day update.
Hazardous Waste Day update is again on Saturday, November 19th of this year. We are all set with Clean Harbors and E.L. Harvey for the shredding truck. I was able to schedule 2023 for Clean Harbors, and I got a date of September 16th. So I wanted to get a jump. I wanted to get a jump on for 2023.
Great.
Very nice. Yeah.
Jack, the only thing that I'll remind board members and you of is we need to make sure that when E.L. Harvey puts the dumpster down at the town highway barn, we need to make sure that it is positioned correctly. We have had, unfortunately, last year, and at least one time before, we had to reach out to the highway staff to come down and move the dumpster because it wasn't in the right spot. We don't want to wear out our welcome.
No, I was speaking with Ellen Tatro about that because that was brought up previously. So I spoke to him about that, and I told him I'd be more than willing to come down to the highway department, and he'll show me where exactly he wants it placed, and I will collaborate that with E.L. Harvey and Clean Harbors of where exactly everybody should be positioned on that day.
Okay, I would also entertain, and we, obviously it would have to be okay with Alan, but some turf marking paint on the spot
Okay.
dumpster's supposed to be, and also noting where the door of the dumpster needs to open, just in case nobody's there.
Well, I do.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Sometimes that dumpster comes on a Friday, and there might not be highway staff on duty, even though it's open. So this way here, if there are some markings on the ground, some turf marking paint, that might help eliminate some ambiguity if someone has to fill in when the dumpster arrives.
Well, I was going to plan on talking to Alan and E.L. Harvey and Clean Harbors that I do want to be there when it's on arrival. So I was going to give them my cell phone to give me a call to let me know that they're on their way so I can get down to the highway department and meet them and show them specifically this is how we want it and this is where we want it.
Excellent, Jack. Thank you.
Because I do not want any mishaps happening on my watch.
No, greatly appreciated.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an inconvenience if it's not placed correctly. And again, we just don't want to wear out our welcome down at the highway barn. So we want to do everything we can to make sure that dumpster is placed correctly.
I agree.
Thank
And
you,
in
Jack.
addition to, this will be a combined paper shredding event too, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
What are the hours, Jack?
9 a.m. to 12 p.m.
First come, first serve.
It is first come, first serve.
And I believe, don't we have a protocol, Alan, where the newest board member brings breakfast?
Okay, then.
Well, she has fresh eggs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Chickens.
And I have a lot of jelly that I made and jam.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
needed some homemade bread to go with that.
Okay. I'll put it on my calendar.
All right.
Well, obviously, as we get closer to that date, we'll have to see what board members are available to work that event. The only other thing is police officer.
Yes, I do have paperwork from last year that we do need a detail officer. So that is on my to-do list.
Excellent. You are on the job, Jack.
Let's see if it goes smoothly.
It will. Now, with the crier no longer publishing, unfortunately, we need to make sure that we publicize this, and maybe when you have a conversation with Amy about the flu clinic, if you have to talk to her about any more details, like we mentioned previous, maybe you can give that information to her so that she can pass it on to her seniors. I know the seniors really love seeing their boxes of papers getting shredded.
Sure, not a problem.
Excellent. Anything else on this issue, fellow board members?
Just with regard to paper shredding, not so much this event, but so I know there was talk about paper shredding for the town hall and departments. Jack, is that going to be is that going to happen as a separate event?
That was going to happen this past Monday. But last week I received a phone call and an email, and the town clerk said that they spoke to town council. The documents they wanted to shred, the town council said, no, you cannot. The assessor's office said that they've done their own shredding, so they do not need our services anymore. The senior center said they couldn't have enough time. They was just too busy during the last couple of months to get everything together, so they weren't gonna have enough. And the treasurer called me on Sunday and said she also did not have enough time, so the town department shredding got canceled for Monday. So it did
Okay.
not happen.
Well, at least we were, the offering was there and the attempt was made, so we can maybe some other time look to try to accommodate.
Yeah.
Cool.
Jack, one question on the town municipal shredding. If I remember correctly, that was going to be an extra fee. Do you know what that extra fee was and what period of time it was going to cover?
It was for $600 and it was for 3 hours.
Okay.
I'm not too sure if there's an additional cost for like disposing of the shred, like a wheelabrator cost to get rid of it. I'm not too sure of that, but I got the cost of the truck to shred of $600 for 3 hours.
Yeah, just keep that information handy in case an organization were to reach out to us. You know, we kind of have that information handy to give to them as a, you know, an estimate.
Yep.
If that's good information to have.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I currently do not see Danielle Edmonds online yet, but I do see others, Elizabeth Hilton, Ann Mazzarelli, and Richard Green. I didn't know if they had any questions or comments about topics so far. If you do, please raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you. So just giving them a few seconds, see if anybody has anything to say so far. All right, nothing so far, so let's skip Danielle if you don't mind until she gets online. And go on.
What about item number 3, Lake Nipmuc panel update?
I'm sorry, I'm skipping. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. No worries. Thank you very much for recognizing our guests, because that's something that I see that they're here, but I was, you know, overlooking that. So thank you for catching that for me. I don't want to overlook anybody.
All right, so a Lake Nipmuc panel update. I did reach out to Gabrielle Belfit. I'm not too sure if you guys are familiar with her, but she's in charge of the Minden Stormwater Task Force.
Yes, I know her.
All right. I did reach out to her and ask her if she would be happy to be part of our panel about the Lake Nipmuc in regards to stormwater runoff, since she is a senior environmental specialist. She said she'd get back to me, and I have not yet heard back, but I'm hoping that she would be a part of that.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so that topic, do any of my fellow board members have any comments or ideas that they want to toss out on that issue?
Well, I was thinking that we should probably invite Wayne Phipps, who's I would say the chair of the Nipmuc Lake Association. So I thought that he would be a good person to be involved with that. I had also talked to a septic installer, and unfortunately, there's been a personal issue. So, but he did say that, you know, during the time, if something came up that we needed to have some question or anything that he could answer, he would answer that. But, and then I thought Dan Byer should be part of it because of the park department and the beach. So I don't know about, how about Matt Ladwig? Yeah.
Matt Ludwig, I don't know if you guys had the video that we was on the Board of Health, not the Board of Health, but the Minden website last year. I believe it was around October, if you guys were able to watch that meeting and his presentation. Did you guys ever watch that?
I
did
have not.
All right, because I guess he had a presentation about the Lake Nipmunk, and I guess he really goes into detail at that board meeting. I think it was the select board. I can find it and send it to you if you guys want to watch that. I didn't know if he's going to be basically repeating what he said last year over again. So I didn't know if we wanted to move forward with him or not after you guys had a chance to look at that.
What
Who
is
is this
Matt's?
gen-
I was gonna ask, what is Matt's credentials? What is he? What does he do?
He's a senior water source scientist
Okay.
for the ESS group in Providence. Right,
All
Jeff?
right. Yes, so tomorrow morning, I'll find those links and email them all to you. Again, the presentation that he goes through is specifically about Lake Nipmunk and the solutions that he's offering. But I didn't know if we wanted to have him on again just to repeat basically everything he said last year. I do see Tom Fickner with his hand raised.
Yeah, just a follow-up question, Joyce. I know you were going to do a reach out, I think, to DEP about discussions with regard to us, as we're talking about Lake Nipmuc, with regard to the process of identifying functionality of septic
Right.
systems
Right.
and their operation. I just didn't know if you had any luck with making contact or validating what we think might be a good plan.
Well, we talked about, Jack and I talked about and thought that perhaps we'd just wait and see, call them once we get a whole group together so that we knew what we were doing and that sort of thing. So I didn't
Okay.
call them to do that at all yet. But the other thing that I was talking about as well was attempting to contact two of the colleges that I know have students out doing things. And one of them is the Mass School of Pharmacy, and the other one is Worcester Polytech. So I was thinking about, but I didn't mention that to you. So I was thinking about mentioning it, again, that they sometimes have programs in doing their environmental studies or their environmental engineering, and they may like to have some of these kids be involved in doing stuff, so I like that kind of thing because I think it's important for the kids, but I didn't know what you thought about it.
Yeah, no, good. What was the other thought I had? Since we're just talking about the lake, I know we've had these discussions before about testing and the variations. What I'd like to see us do moving forward when we get into next year is I'd like to have us have a plan in place for expanding our testing from what we currently do now to expand it with not only within the beach area, but I'd like to incorporate from a Board of Health perspective, testing in the lake at various points in the lake. I kind of want to make this an all-encompassing kind of an approach. So
I definitely agree with that because, and I hate to say this, but back in the day when I was doing that, we did have a program that, I used to go around in the boat with them, and they would do different spots, would do different things, would document where we were and what we did there, and so I think that's very important because I think we have to go all around the lake.
yeah, I think if we're going to, I mean, I know the beach is quote unquote had only been our only direct oversight, but I think as we look at this lake as an issue, as a resource as a whole, and from a public, health perspective, I think we need to broaden our oversight a bit and try to take in the whole lake as we,
Right.
try to move
I
forward and try to
definitely-
improve it.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree because I think that, when you're talking about E. coli, the prime distributor of E. coli septic systems, so, I mean, that's a big deal there.
The other issue that I'll mention with regard to the lake that could actually come up tomorrow night. For those on the call who are not aware, there is a public hearing or meeting, I should say, regarding the upcoming work that's going to happen on Route 16
Right.
tomorrow night at 7, that anyone is able to join. It's a Teams meeting. And I believe one of the questions that is going to be raised in that meeting is stormwater. And with regard to how the stormwater will flow from a future perspective, but also currently the concerns that I know I have with how it's flowing now and the direction of where that stormwater is going.
Right.
Oh, I just thought I'd mention that. That's it.
Alan,
Alan?
did you have anything to add on?
Yes,
He's
please.
He's pushing buttons over there. We're in trouble.
I think the Board of Health has entered pretty much into a team effort with the Lake Nipmuc Association to work together to address these concerns. And I personally would like to continue that teamwork with them and work this as a partnership. They obviously have a big stake in the lake. And as the Board of Health, we want to join them and work together to preserve this resource. So I think the route that we're taking is a good route. I did have one question. That gentleman who made the presentation to the selectmen, how did he get involved? How did that come about? Does anyone know? Thank you.
I do not myself personally know.
Which gentleman are you talking of?
It's that Matt Ludwig person, I think.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
he made the presentation to the selectmen? Not to
Yes.
you? Not to you?
I don't even think I was aware that, to be honest with you, that actually happened myself.
Oh.
I don't recall it.
All right, I just emailed the board the links. Dan Byers, the one that sent it to me. And I believe that the links will tell you the PowerPoint presentation he presented and also the meeting of the select board. Actually, it looks like it was to the Conservation Commission on October 21st, 2021.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. That's actually another group. It would be kind of nice to kind of keep involved in the circle of communications, to be honest with you, would be conservation.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, this meeting, once we get this panel together, I was my understanding that it's going to be hosted jointly by the Nipmuc Association and the Board of Health. And it's going to be open to anyone who, wants to either attend or call in or whatever technology we have available. I believe they use the Grandview Ballroom. So whatever technology we have available over there will allow us to, reach people that, are concerned about this issue. So, I mean, I have no problem involving the Conservation Committee. If they have an interest, they might not, initially have an interest, but as this progresses, they may become interested. So we're always welcome.
Yeah, I would say that's part of their bailiwick, actually, because, they're conservation.
No, I
They
would agree.
should
I agree.
have an interest. If they don't, and
Just
I
saying.
personally have a problem, but they should have an
I don't-
interest.
I guess I'm reserving the right to, that I don't know how much they have on their plate at the moment.
Right,
So they might not want to jump in on meeting one.
right.
Geez, did I just put a target on my back, Joyce? What do you think?
So we you know, we don't know how full their agenda is already. We know how
Right.
full ours is.
Right.
Right. If there's anything else that we want to talk about on this issue, if not, I see Danielle Edmonds is on.
I'm good.
I'm good. Anybody in the public domain listening have any questions or thoughts? I guess not. They're good just listening. Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next number 4, Jack.
All right, Danielle, you're up. This is about the health agent vacant position.
Oh, yes. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's well. So I just wanted to alert the board, because I know that there have been like change in staff, and I just want to make sure that everyone like is aware that Dan and I are not replacement but supplementary services, and I've noticed a need for you guys to hire another individual on staff just because of all like the pop-up events we're having in town, and then especially when Dan and I are called away for trainings or for emergencies in other towns. I just don't want Mendon to be playing catch up all the time, and I feel as if we are getting there. So I think it would be in the board's best interest to look into hiring a part-time inspector for like the restaurants and any housing complaints that do come up, because again, Dan and I are supplementary.
Yeah, I concur, Danielle. Yeah, we know it's something that's been on our radar. We just haven't pulled the trigger on getting formal, I guess, advertisement out. And I think in addition to that, from a health inspection perspective, I would also say that possibly animal inspector position or that element of animal inspection may not be a bad idea to include, just because we know that you and Dan are supplemental, but we really need to replace what we kind of had. You know, we're trying not to overuse you folks, but yeah, we definitely something we have to push forward on.
Alan?
Yes, I agree. Danielle and I have had these conversations a while back, and it's definitely something we need to do. I agree with Tom. There's no reason we can't advertise both positions, you know, instead of just waiting to fill one. However, Danielle, we would any guidance that you could have on minimum requirements for this part-time position. Any input you could give us on that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely check out like the other towns, because I know recently they hired new people to help on their staff, so I can look at the applications for that. And obviously I know being hired myself for that position, so I could definitely help Jack maybe draft like some type of application, and then it could go before the board before it gets officially sent out, or you know, whatever you all would like.
That makes sense to me, for sure.
I did reach out to Shelley, the town's HR department, for a job description. She said she would look into it, and I have not heard back. I have not followed up with her about that.
I thought that the one that you sent us from the town of Hopedale had quite a list of requirements and things like that. It looked quite good. I read that over. Thought that was.
Yes, I agree. I read that also. And Joyce, you know, where you've been involved with the Board of Health for a long time, you know, definitely put your eyes on it and add anything that you, you know, would feel from prior experience that would be helpful. I don't know, were we paying previously, was that an annual salary that we were paying, Jack? Do you happen to know? Or was that just kind of what it all added up to?
That I do not know.
Okay. Because I know Lenny was doing a lot to help us out. So we may have to realign things to what the market is now for those services. And most likely Danielle can give us some assistance in that as far as salary or per inspection. Much appreciated any guidance we can get. Thank you.
Right. Normally, Chairman, it's with a part-time position. Normally it's like per inspection. So kind of it would be like an hourly rate. Most often that's what I've noticed a lot of towns do. But just to let the board know, you do have an animal inspector right now. It is me. And then since it is starting to become fall, thankfully, I will be going out to start to do the barn inspection. So I don't want you all to feel like you don't have an animal inspector, but I do think it would be wise to have another person readily available to help with things that come up that I could not get to.
Tom Fickner?
Yeah, with regard to the position and the, regarding salary and hiring, I know, Alan, in the past that it's come up with regard to past health inspector. There was some view from administration perspective here in town that there may or may not need to be a modification as to the hiring format. Like previously we had, like, for example, Lenny had always basically operated as a quote unquote contractor. And then there was some talk about making modifications. So it might have to be a discussion there with, town administration in terms of how that position has to be advertised. It may not be able to be a quote unquote contractor type of thing. There might be another element to it.
Alan?
Yes, I remember that conversation, and I'm going to assume it's going to be similar to how we hired the tobacco people, how they have to make those arrangements with HR for payroll purposes, etc. Not quite the arrangement that we had in the past. It's almost like more of an employee, even though it's an hourly or a part-time employee versus a contractor. I remember those conversations. So thank you very much for reminding me of that situation. And that's why I advised Jack to contact Shelley, not just for a job description, but, to find out if there were anything we had to do differently. So obviously we need to move forward on the health agent more urgently than the animal inspector. And as Danielle mentioned, the animal inspector with the barn book will start to get busy right now. But, obviously we're going to have someone in play to answer things that, Danielle can't. She's our interim. And, we greatly appreciate, her doing that. But I have no objection to hiring both. The health inspector, obviously a priority. Thank you.
Danielle, are you familiar with was it Hopedale that's looking for a health agent, was it?
Yes, Hopedale is currently looking for a part-time health agent.
Were you able to look at that job description that they were trying to find?
I have not, but I could definitely look for it.
And off a stupid question, would it be stupid to have a shared health agent between Hopedale and Mendon?
I was just going to say that. So I don't think that's a stupid question.
Well, yeah, I'm all about regional shared services because that's what my position is about. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that obviously both like HRs would need to be on the same page and make sure that, their expectations and their hours don't overlap. But I do think it would be a good idea.
Does the board have anything else to add on to this?
No, I agree.
No, I think that's a great idea. If you have someone that's looking for a full-time position, and we have the ability to fill a portion of that with another town that's a neighboring town, I think it's a great idea to investigate and ask questions to see if that's a possibility. Thank you.
Okay. We
Makes
have
sense.
Lonnie.
Thank you.
We have Lonnie Tinio with his hand raised. Lonnie?
He's muted. Okay.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, my computer's a touch slow.
Hey, Lonnie, yep. Go ahead.
Just a note on that shared piece, we are definitely looking to do as much as possible with that, with our surrounding towns. We're doing stuff with Blackstone right now and also looking at a bunch of other services. So that would be totally in line with what the town administrator and the select board is currently doing.
Excellent. Thank you, Lonnie.
I'm a little disappointed that Lonnie is having computer problems. I don't know what else to say.
It's embarrassing.
He's an honest IT person.
Lonnie,
All right,
I don't
well,
get to
thank you.
mow my lawn every week.
All right, thank you, Danielle. I'd be very appreciative, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good, Jack. Thank you as always. Thank you, board.
Thank you, Danielle.
All right.
Bye.
If there's nothing else on this issue, we can move to number 5.
Number 5 is the Rooster noise nuisance follow-up at 18B Neck Hill Road. We do have Ann Mazzarelli. Ann Mazzarelli, would you like to chime in on this, please?
Sure, yes. Okay, so the good news is we have not heard the rooster since September 9th. So Jack had informed me that I guess, yes, we've actually been able to sleep. Jack was kind enough to inform me that they did have a youngling over there. That's what I was hearing. And so they were asked to remove it. Joyce went over there, I guess, and asked them to remove it, and they did. And thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. I'm happy to report that we do not hear it anymore. The only reservation I have is
Here's
because
the butt. Here's the butt.
But now there is a coop there, and what's to prevent him from getting another rooster 2 months from now when this kind of is resolved and people might forget about it? Not us, because we live next to it. That's my only concern. And the fact that he is a renter, if he should move from there and there's a coop there and the next person that moves in there doesn't know about the rooster situation and has a rooster, I mean, it would be good to have some kind of a document that's either online that says what the steps to take if rooster noise is deemed a noise nuisance, with steps to take with the Board of Health. I don't want to be a pessimist, but I'm just trying to be realistic about it.
Let me just say one thing. His coop is very transient. It's very, and I think Tom could tell you the same thing, that it's a fold up. It will be perfectly easy to go. And I'm thinking if he was going to move somewhere and he was going to take his chickens, he'd want to take his coop. So that to me seems fine. But my discussions with both of them, I'm pretty sure that they will not get another one, but they do have some younglings that you can't always tell. And which was what happened. The only reason that I was with Jack when I got your message and I said, that's a baby. That's just a kid. So I went over right away and she said, yeah, we'll take care of it. She said, we didn't know it was a rooster because you can't tell always.
Okay, yeah, they look the same.
There's a lot of similarities, so you can't always tell. And it was, so they did take care of it. And I think that they've taken it very seriously. They've gotten rid of all their roosters, did what we said. So I don't think that they'll leave their coop. So Just saying. Pretty sure of that, because it's, right, Tom? It definitely was a coop that would go easily.
Yeah, I would agree. I would just like to add, I'd like to give extra kudos here to Joyce. Joyce, you went above and beyond on a good part of this to, help resolve the problem. So I just, want to give you a job well done there. And I also appreciate, the the patience that Ann, you and Richard and other folks, the time you had to kind of deal with all this. I know it was very frustrating, and I'm glad, was able to come to a resolution. I know it took quite a bit of time to do, but I'm glad that thank you folks for kind of bearing with us while we were able to kind of, get things resolved. Moving forward, though, I think the board does have still kind of an item on a backlog agenda with regard to the discussion possibly of creating rooster permitting. This is an element that, Ann, you're probably aware, had come up back in March when we started to address it as a Board of Health, and when we had the Agricultural Commission involved with us, and they presented us a nice little set of guidelines, if you will, under which that would make for a great document or PDF for someone who does want to potentially pursue this in the future, things that they would have to do and be aware of for, engaging in such a hobby. So that, I know that's something that I guess we as a board will have to determine if we want to implement something like that, or if we want to continue with any future rooster noise issues, if we simply want to stay in the direction of treating them as a quote unquote nuisance, and then pursuing what we already know is under our, purview now that already exists. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Alan?
Yes, I agree with Tom. And unfortunately, this was an issue that people from the Neck Hill Daniels Road neighborhood experienced with some bad roosters. We obviously have other roosters in town behave themselves and don't disturb the neighbors, and they are welcome in our community as long as they continue to behave. You unfortunately had a on out uncomfortable experience. So I was going to suggest perhaps working with the ag committee to publicize their suggestions on good rooster husbandry. And perhaps maybe we can come up with a document, a one sheet information that maybe when our animal inspector is doing their animal inspections, they can pass out. Maybe, there are people in town that have roosters that are currently behaving themselves, that aren't aware of some of the things that they can do if their rooster starts to misbehave, such as, the confinement between 7P and 7A, the depriving them of light, adding some sound insulation to the coop that they're keeping the rooster in. So, maybe that's an information sheet that can be given out to everybody that gets an animal inspection, whether they have roosters or not. A lot of times the animal inspector finds out about other people keeping animals, whether they be goats or horses, that aren't on the barn book list. And the way they find out is as they're doing their inspections, someone who's keeping animals may say, well, geez, did you check out my neighbor 3 doors down? I think they have some goats. They may like a visit and, like some suggestions on what they're doing or how they're doing taking care of their animals. So that is a possibility. just to get that message out that the Ag Committee put together as to good ways to keep your rooster being a good neighbor. In the interim, before we, have to go to the step of, regulating how many roosters someone can have and having them have to register, et cetera. There are things that can be done in the meantime to make sure that, the word gets out on how to keep your rooster the good side of your neighbors. Thank you.
Okay, we have Richard Green with his hand raised. Richard?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you to the board for your help and understanding on this issue, because it's been a long year hearing roosters crowing, but I just appreciate your help in understanding where we were coming from on this issue. There's a lot of roosters, as Alan mentioned, that don't bother anybody. It's the ones that bother someone that we're looking for help with. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Our
We
pleasure.
appreciate that.
I hope the silence isn't too deafening, Richard.
I'll sleep tonight.
Yeah, really.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to add on this topic? Nobody's raising their hand, so I think we're good on this topic. All right, thank you, Ann. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you all very much. Much appreciated.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Rest easy.
We will. Thanks.
Yeah, just think that 5 o'clock in the morning stakeout and I didn't even get any eggs.
Wah, wah, wah.
All right.
All right, so the next up is the dumpster regulations draft update. Did everybody review the latest edits that we had from our last meeting at the Taft Library?
Yes, I did.
Yes, she did.
I did.
So are there any additional edits that we want to add to it, or are we good to incorporate those? And
I think it's good. Looks like it's gonna be well done. Yeah, to me.
I was happy with it, although I'm not always the one that pays the most attention to detail. But as I read through it, it looked like when it's all printed up, it's going to be a little cleaner, a little neater, a little shorter, but still get the message across. And if I understand it correctly, there's this is only really going to be a little bit of extra work for those people that want to put a dumpster in town that don't already have an annual awful permit, because they're the ones that are going to have to fill out and pay the fee to drop a temporary dumpster on someone's property, if I understand it correctly. And the companies that presently do business in town and have annual permits, it is going to put them on notice that they're not only responsible for dropping the dumpster and picking it up, but making sure that their customers use the dumpster properly, along with setting that fee schedule, that fine schedule rather, if we have problems. So I'm hopeful that this is going to clean things up a little bit and prevent the issues that we've had in the past without being too restrictive. Thank you.
Tom?
Well, I would just, I'm fine. I guess it seems, I think we have a working document. I think now it's just a matter of putting it in its quote unquote final form. And then I'd imagine what now the next step is to establish a notification for a public hearing for it? Or do we want to, once we see it in its, unless we're considering this its final form, Are we going to have one more look-see, or at this point, are we ready to just kind of put it out there and notify the public that we're wanting to schedule a public hearing for public comment and discussion?
All right, we have Lonnie with his hand raised. Lonnie?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm sorry that I'm late to the party on this, just because it took a bit to get everything settled that I was going to be jumping on and listening to you guys. That's why I'm here too. I don't know if you guys know. So as select board members, now that there's 5, we're all taking a few different boards and committees and just listening in so that the select board's aware of what everybody's doing in town, not to intrude or anything like that, but and also, obviously ask questions if they pop up. So you were just talking about the awful permit, which is for dumpster companies that are bringing dumpsters in that people hire. And are you saying that there's an additional fee for new vendors, but the current vendors won't have any fees?
Alan?
If I understand what we've put together, Lonnie, to allow, according to Dan Markman, who helped draft these. Dan works in collaboration with Danielle Edmonds, who spoke earlier. Dan helped put this together. He's worked on other towns, the town of Reading. I think he helped put an extensive document together to do similar to what we're doing. If you have presently an annual offal permit, all this is going to do is let them know that they're not responsible for dropping the dumpster at their customer's site, but they're responsible to make sure that their customer uses the dumpster correctly. No extra fee. If there's a company that doesn't have an annual offal permit, that gets called by someone to drop a dumpster, for a small fee, they're going to be allowed to drop that dumpster. They have to adhere to these regulations. The problem that we have been having is people not using their dumpster properly, dumpsters hanging around for months and months.
Yep.
So we actually looked at Northbridge, and I think we looked at Upton, and we looked at Reading, because a lot of this came from the town of Reading. And some towns, temporary dumpster, you could only have it for 30 days. So our discussion was that in today's world, if someone's renovating a kitchen, 30 days is not a reasonable amount of time to allow them to put a dumpster on their property. Now, they have to put the dumpster on their property with certain restrictions. It can't interfere with the traffic flow. It can't be too close to their neighbor. Everybody needs to practice the good neighbor policy, but we want to be realistic. And we also allow for an extension. Initially 60 days, an extension of 30 before fee, etc. But again, this kind of puts the dumpster companies on notice that out their awful permit, they're doing business in town the right way. Have to make sure that there's a little more responsibility as to what's going in that dumpster. If it's a C&D dumpster, it can't be throwing household garbage in there. Household garbage separate. So even though there's a lot of words and definitions here, the intent is to just simple and to not put an extra expense on anybody, but to make sure that we have enough of a fee to cover those dumpsters. Hires to do a renovation past has become a nuisance, and we have to go out there and address it.
Yep, I get it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Tom, Joyce, Jack, you want to comment further?
No,
Joyce, go ahead.
I think that, we spent a lot of time going through it the day in the library and doing all the things that were important. And to me, I think it's pretty clear, you can have a dumpster, but it's not your life's thing. And you've got to have certain criterion in which you can use it, and bing, bam, boom. So once people get that idea, then it's pretty, pretty simple. Pretty simple.
You actually said something there, Alan, that you phrased something that I hadn't really thought of before, and that was in describing it to Lonnie, putting the responsibility on the company to make sure that the dumpster is being used properly.
That's the way I'm reading it, and that's the way I
Right.
understood our last conversation with Dan Markman, that this was geared towards the dumpster company, not the homeowner that requests a dumpster. So I'm just going on what he explained to us at the meeting at the library, because up until then, I thought more towards the homeowner. So I'm glad that he clarified that for me. And as I read it, I was reading it in its entirety, not line by line like we had gone through it, with that understanding as to who this was geared to. It's geared to the professional dumpster company. And, it says clearly that they're supposed to refuse to pick up a dumpster if mingled. So, there's no extra fee to all those companies that do business in town and have been doing business the right way. But there's a little bit more information that they may have to pass on to their customer as to how the dumpster is being used. I know, like, I've been told that if you hire a dumpster because you're having a roof done in company, they will pretty much tell you that, you can't throw Grandma's old recliner on top of that dumpster, because when
Right.
they bring that dumpster to the transfer station, they're not dumping those shingles in the same pile that they're dumping a piece of furniture in, because the transfer station tries to separate that stuff.
So it is
I
incumbent
know-
upon the owner of the dumpster to make sure that his people that are renting it are very clear. And to me, that's what we've done. They're very clear, they make it very clear to them, because otherwise they're in deep trouble.
Well, the issue that we had, the residential issue that we had there, where we believe there was some commingling going on, it seemed like that company that was the vendor for that dumpster did not seem to have a problem with picking up a dumpster, and actually determining whether it actually was commingled product or not. If I'm correct, is that accurate, Alan, Joyce?
That's the way I remember it. However, when Jack had the conversation with, I'm going to call him a dispatcher from that company, and Jack told him that wasn't going to fly, he was in agreement. Okay, if that's the way you want it, then we're not going to we're not going to allow that. Again, this is going to have to be. It probably has to go by town council real quick. We'd have to ask Lonnie about that. They probably have to put their eyes on it real quick before we can go to town, a town meeting type situation. But we're going to have to let the dumpster companies, when they apply for their awful permit, know that we now have dumpster regulations. And I mean, the whole reason to do this was so that when we have a complaint, whether it be blowing trash, whether it be a dumpster that seems to have been on a site forever, whether it's someone complaining about rodents and smells and dumpster juice, now we have some regulations that we can go back to, and we can say, well, this is against Mendon's dumpster regulations. We're not trying to make it difficult for anyone to do business in town. We're certainly not trying to make it difficult for anybody that wants to hire a dumpster. We just want it to be done properly. And when there is an issue, we need to be able to go back and cite something other than going back to the state laws that the nuisance, and that's the only avenue we have to act, we have actual regulations that say this is the proper way to use a dumpster. Not that you can't have a dumpster, not that you can't hire a dumpster company that doesn't have an annual permit in town. So I think it's really pretty simple if
Yeah,
I'm reading it and understanding it correctly. And a lot of this I'm getting from that conversation we had, that presentation from Dan Markman, and that's really where I got my understanding that you have to take this document as a whole. It's very hard to dissect the meaning of every sentence.
Right.
It's almost like a puzzle. The individual piece doesn't make a lot of sense, but when you put all the pieces together, the puzzle's complete.
So the entities in town now that currently utilize their dumpsters for various purposes, let's take for granted, take for example, food establishments. It has no, they wouldn't have any concern with commingling because their dumpsters are used for their trash, which is going to include food elements of it. So it's going to be handled. They wouldn't have that concern because it's not going to have any kind of C&D issue there. They're just disposing of their trash as they normally always dispose of it.
Right.
Right?
Correct. The only issue that might arise is on the recycling side, because it lists, cardboard, etc. I'm going to assume the permanent dumpsters in town, where they're paying, an annual fee to have that company come out and service that dumpster. And these dumpster companies I know there's a dumpster not too far from Joyce. And I believe at one point paper may have been going in that dumpster, and I saw that dumpster company took the responsibility of putting a separate bin next to the dumpster for paper. So these companies know rules. And obviously they want to stay in business, and they want to have a good reputation. So it's just a matter of we're putting it in writing what we expect, and a lot of these companies are already doing that. It's purely to try to head off any of the long-term problems that we've had in the past, and sometimes it seems like we have to go the long way to solve the issue. Someone not being a good neighbor or not being a responsible dumpster user. And this is something that anybody in town that uses a dumpster is going to have access to, so that they can read it and educate themselves on, how to use their dumpster properly and be a good neighbor.
And
that's the way I see it.
What's a temporary dumpster and what's not? That they're not getting a temporary dumpster for a year. A temporary dumpster is for a certain amount of time. And it's
correct. And after
right.
They have 60 days initially, they
Right.
have 30 days extension, and then they can come to the board on a case-by-case situation if they need a temporary dumpster for a longer period of time. And this is going to let us know
right.
when calls and complains, we can look in our records, or I should say Jack can, and he can say that, oh yeah, the board acted on that and gave them an extension. They're not only doing a kitchen, but they're doing a bathroom also, and moving as fast as they like them to. So that would satisfy that caller why that dumpster has been there for what probably seems forever in their eyes, because they've been parking next to it for 4 months.
Right.
And it also puts the user on notice that the project can't go on for years.
And
it's
the
going to
usage,
be more costly. It's going to cost them. They're going to be having to pay more money then.
and I'm what I'm getting to is that these guidelines are really not only about temporary usage. This is also about the usage of anybody with a permanent dumpster as well, correct?
Yes. because it's not, it's commercial and residential dumpsters. It's permanent and temporary dumpsters, to my understanding. It's all dumpsters in town. But we were very careful because we wanted to make sure that we weren't putting an added expense on all those businesses in town that already have a dumpster. It's not going to be any added expense to them. And for that matter, it's not going to be any added expense to any company that already has an annual awful permit that drops a dumpster at Tom Fickner's house because he's renovating a bathroom. Because they
Yeah.
already have an annual permit, know the rules, and they're going to tell you the rules.
Yeah, expense, yeah, I understand the expense part. It just may mean though, and not necessarily that it's a bad thing, but it may mean a change in how businesses handle their trash. Because if we're now implementing guidelines on what they are supposed to put in there and what they're not supposed to put in there, granted, we're putting the onus on the vendor, but ultimately, and again, this is where the policing part could be very interesting. Theoretically, the vendor is going to have to inform their customer, hey, you can't do this anymore the way you used to. I see that that's probably going to be a part of this new format. I'd be understanding that correctly, right?
Can I jump in for a sec?
Yes,
that
Lonnie,
Lonnie?
go ahead.
Yeah, so Tom, I definitely hear what you're saying. However, specific dumpsters are for specific things. Like you said, you have I just use the New England Steakhouse for an example, right? That those are for that type of establishment, right? So they're a commercial, and then Imperial has regular garbage. They have their tire vendor dumpsters. They have their other waste oil, things along those lines that they have, which may not be dumpsters, but there's the different pieces of it. Whereas here, like when we built our houses, we had a dumpster here for quite a while, but it was for construction debris, right? I think that really what this gives is that option that you have the ability to go through another vendor that may not be paying that awful permit. If anything, it gives the more of the homeowners a broader choice that we don't have to use just who's already permitted in the town. We're going to be able to utilize anybody. With that company may have to come get a temporary permit though, is kind of what I'm hearing here, unless I'm hearing it wrong. But as far as what goes in those dumpsters, that should be specified by the client to the dumpster company, knowing what they need to put into it. As far as the Board of Health policing that, it would be on a complaint basis in my head, that you wouldn't want that burden of driving around to check people's dumpsters on a regular basis. I feel like that's what I'm hearing anyway.
No, that piece about the policing would be correct. You're right. We wouldn't have the ability to do that. We'd only be acting on a situation if somebody actually put a complaint through. We're not going to be routinely doing inspections, I don't believe, although with the implementation of dumpster regulations, it actually could become a part of the inspection process. We could, like what we do with tobacco, we could say, hey, Danielle, we want you to go out and take a peek at so-and-so's dumpster today just to check and make sure everything looks okay. That's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility, but with regard to permitting, anybody that does do any kind of dumpster movement in town, they would definitely have to have a permit, Lonnie. Yes, the end user has the ability to use who they want, but they do have to be a permanent entity with the Board of Health.
Alan?
Yes, but I know that I have found that a lot of dumpster companies do ask what you're using the dumpster for when you acquire a dumpster. Because now there are a lot of landscapers like myself that will hire a dumpster if we're tearing out a whole bunch of vegetation, shrubs, etc. And then that's all we can put in that dumpster. Dumpster company, when they come to pick it up, it has to go on a separate spot or a separate site because of what it is. And I think, because the world is getting a little more responsible over time as to where things go, it's forcing dumpster companies to educate their users as to what can go in a dumpster. Because they could go to a place to dump and the load could get refused if it doesn't have in it to have in it.
That is
because
exactly right. Exactly.
right. So this just kind of spells it out that not only does the world expect these things to be divided up, but the town of Mendon Board of Health expects these things to be divided up also. And like Lonnie said, the steakhouse doesn't pour their oil in their regular dumpster. It goes in a container and the company that recycles that oil comes and gets it. So a lot of people are already doing the responsible thing, whether they want to or not, because they're forced to. They can't get these materials picked up unless they're separated out. It's the people that don't use dumpsters on a regular basis, or the people that aren't good neighbors about how they keep their dumpster, that attract our attention. And those are the dumpsters that we're going to have to respond to. So I don't think it's going to become a regular inspection thing, because like we talked, when the inspector goes out and inspects a restaurant or a convenience store, they look at the dumpster already to make sure that it's used properly, it's being maintained, it's not oozing, undesirable juice that's attracting flies. They already do that. This, like I said, is something that we can fall back and cite on when we have a dumpster complaint, other than trying to go back to the nuisance law all the time, which has become the long way. And again, it doesn't, the people that are already doing business in town and the people that have dumpsters that are already in town that are doing it the right way, it's a reminder for them to keep doing it the right way.
Tom?
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I would say with regard to the reference of nuisance, though, I would not have applied this situation to the nuisance. I would have, if there was an issue with dumpsters, and potentially what was going in or being stored, I would have probably more leaned towards citing a sanitation code issue versus a nuisance, which sanitation code guidelines already exist. But I understand where we're
Thank
looking
you,
to
Tom.
kind of just, oh yeah, yep, where we're putting it in writing and spelling it out, which is always good to do. So everyone kind of has, everyone's reading from the same page. Yep. Okay.
All right, so the only thing on the dumpster regulations, Dan Markman talked about the appeals process and spelling that out. So I think that's the last part that we need to incorporate that. And I don't know where to go to get that type of information.
Town council.
Town council, okay.
Thank you, Lonnie.
Lonnie, would you say that it's reasonable that town council were to review these before we go before the town?
Yeah, 100%. I would definitely have them review it. Jack, just reach out to Kim and she'll get you in touch with Cindy. And then Cindy, if there's something in there that's like she may come back and say, look, this is almost impossible for us to fight in court or something like that. We should word it this way. That's generally what you'll find, that she'll give you just better wording in certain instances.
Okay.
And Jack, at the same time, she can help us with what a reasonable appeal process should be that we can add
All right.
Any other comments on this issue?
I think we've trashed it to death.
Okay,
Tom?
so let's move.
Tom, do you have something?
No, I just did that for the heck of it. Okay.
So let's move forward. Reaching out to Kim, getting in touch with Cindy, and getting town council to put their eyes on this and make any corrections that we, that they deem necessary to keep us out of trouble, along with, a very brief appeals process so that we can move forward. Everybody, thank you for all your hard work on this. I know Dan's not on this call, but Dan Markman definitely gave us a great set of bones to work with. And the different information from other towns that Jack dug up, so that we could see how we lined up with other area towns. I think we did a reasonably good job trying not to be too restrictive, but having some documentation to handle any problems that might arise. So thank you everyone for your help. Next issue.
All right, next issue is the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust. This is about the Community Septic Management Program. This is again referencing the Lake Nipmunk area for the houses. We were talking about. Go ahead.
Jack, thank you.
Me and Tom were talking about it last week. We reached out to the state to see if funding is available. And I guess funding is available by a case-by-case basis. Was that correct, Tom? Do you remember that? Case-by-case basis?
That is correct. They seem to indicate that just a matter of an applicant applying for it, but it wasn't a case where they were saying the account's empty, so to speak. It just a matter of applying and I guess going through that approval process that goes along with it.
So I did find some old paperwork when Mendon had it last. I think it was back in 2011 it was. So I'm assuming we have to fill out the application, but again, I believe we have to go through the select board, get Kim and council's permission before we move forward. But it looks like we have to have a town meeting, a warrant article, and I guess
wasn't it something you came across, Jack, that actually back when Jack Ringo was chairman?
Yeah,
about
that's
a letter that.
Yeah, he sent it to Mr. Hocko. This is back on June 22nd, 2011. It states that the Mendon Board of Health is requesting to participate in the Community Septic Management Program. The board did participate in the late 1990s, but did not continue. Due to the economy, the board feels this program will benefit our town greatly. Attached, you will find a certified copy of the town meeting vote that took place on June 6, 2011. Please, the board looks forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, please contact. And that was Jack Ranger, the chairman of the board.
Right. So I believe since then, I believe we were put back into the mix because I believe that there have been individuals who have taken advantage of funds since 2011, if memory serves me correctly. I think it's always been a case where it has been mentioned that in the past that supposedly there weren't funds available, but to my understanding, I believe we have always been a quote unquote active participant in the program over these past few years.
We have Lonnie with his hand up. Lonnie?
Sorry, are these grants or are these the low interest loans? And then one other thing. Okay, and then the other question I had, and it's not for tonight, maybe for your next meeting, if you could throw an agenda item on for me. I wanted to ask about the Parks Department. Sorry, no, not the Parks Department. The snack shacks at the Memorial Field, specifically the one that doesn't have a sink in it at this point, and just how we could accomplish maybe a tight tank or something. But again, for another meeting, if you could add me to the agenda on that.
Yep, not a problem. Yeah, I believe the it is a loan from the state, is a 2% interest. But I'm not too sure how it works. I don't know if anybody remembers back in the day, is Joyce's famous words, how it worked.
Yeah.
Alan?
Yes, to bring you up to speed, the board asked Jack to look into this in advance, because we want to make sure that anything we do on the lake or anything we find on the lake, we would like to have the ability to help anyone that needs help. God forbid we find a system that's failed, or just to make people along the lake know that Board of Health is here to help them system. For some reason, if they were apprehensive to do so, they may know they have an issue and, not know what assets are available to them to help them update their system and help keep the lake healthy. So before we move forward too far in, investigating where problems might be coming, we wanted to make sure that we were going to be able to help anybody that either came forward or anything that we discovered. We don't want to put anybody in a hardship situation. However, the health of the lake is very important. So that's why we had Jack do this research. And I remember talking with Missy about it a ways back, and that the rate was 5%, which is, what I've seen in some of these notations. Very encouraged to see that current rate is 2%. So, we should be able to help anybody that needs help in updating their system, especially along the lake. But we may find a resident in the village or in another area of town that we can also help update their system, knowing that this program is readily available. Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, no, in the package information, Jack, that we went through, and I can't recall how current it was considered to be. To what Alan mentioned, it does indicate a 5% interest rate for a period of 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. No credit check required. Although all your real estate taxes, water bill, or any other municipal account should be paid up and to date. There's also some additional information here about other financial assistance where you could also be offered a sliding scale loan at 0%, 3%, or 5% interest to eligible homeowners with failed systems. So was that information, was that current that you had found?
That's 2005.
Oh, okay. So I guess we'd probably want to reconnect with the powers that be and just validate where things stand with regard to the details.
Yeah, the email that I got was from Ashroff. He is the program manager, Division of Municipal Services, DEP. He's the one that said it was 2% currently.
Okay.
I'm just looking at old emails. Then I had Maria Pinard, who is the director for Municipal Services Division of the Bureau of Water Resources. Because when I first found the packet of information, I noticed it said July of 2005, and that's what prompted me to ask them. I'm like, are you guys still doing this in the state? And that's when they sent me the application itself, which is October 2021. But they didn't send me any new updated, like, packet of information about the loan itself.
Right.
So I'm wondering if Lonnie, Lonnie, you might have any insight on it. So would this actually be a sum of money that actually is allocated to the town? And then the town somehow is involved in keeping this money and paying a low percent interest back to the state for having the funds available to residents? Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay.
Tom, from what I was reading in some of the old information, it sounded as though Jack had requested a total sum of $400,000, and it had to go before the town to approve that money from the state, and then the money gets paid back with your tax bill.
Correct.
Back at that time, it looked like it was getting paid back semi-annually. Now I don't know if they'd gone to quarterly at the time. So now I would assume that where we collect the taxes quarterly, that there may be 4 equal payments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
To
so
pay
that
this
what it does, in my opinion, from what I read about the whole thing, was that what it does, it allows them to have, like, borrow the money and pay it back incrementally, rather than, like, if they were going to have in most towns, I mean, in most places, if you had a septic installer put in a new septic system, it would have to be paid right all at one time, which the town would pay that, and the person would pay it back incrementally through their taxes. You know,
I
Yeah,
see.
I understood it
Right,
as
right.
where that $400,000 was approved.
Right,
That was sort of the Board of Health's pot of money.
correct,
So
correct.
you had that pot to work with. That pot was empty after else.
You're breaking up, but
Yeah, your audio's cutting out, Alan.
right.
That figures.
Here you go. You're better
I
now.
apologize. Okay, it's probably me.
But it doesn't matter.
so-
You know, the thing that I hear what you're saying, but I think that you would do it a step at a time. If you had like 50 people that said, "Oh, we need around the lake, that need to have their septic systems," and they don't have any money, which, I'm reluctant to believe that people that live on the lake are in proper standards and don't have money, but there may be 2 or 3. But I would not think that they would be, a ton of people that would need that as their solution.
Well, I think this gives you an incentive where it's a low interest loan, where you have the ability to pay it back, let's say, payments every year. So just like your property taxes, you plan for it.
Right,
So I think it's an incentive for someone who doesn't want to mortgage, pay a higher rate. I mean, it's still tied to your deeded property, but that could tip the scale from someone who's apprehensive is going to do it.
Lonnie?
Sorry, yeah. So Joyce, just on what you said, right? I would have to agree with you that anybody in a recent purchase, and I don't know how far back recent would go, I would say would probably be in a better financial position to fix their septic. However, those septics are probably all in good shape because you
right,
need
because
them
they
to
had to have a Title V
do
inspection
the
before
purchase.
they could sell.
Right. So
Correct.
It's it's those older places that the people have
Right.
lived there for 40 or 50 years or longer that's been in the family and never had to have it through a Title V that
Right.
again maybe and not in the best financial shape that might need the assistance. But yeah, sorry, you
Correct.
see where I'm going with that.
Right, right. Yeah. I
Well, and
agree.
again, this doesn't just pertain to people on the lake. It's the
Well,
reason
you
we
know
wanted
what?
to make sure we were involved with it.
Right,
People in the village, tight lots that might have
Right.
an issue that have, an
Right.
older home and a cesspool, or it
Right.
could be, anybody in town.
exactly. But what brought this to the forefront was when Jack and I were talking about the Lake Association and the lake, trying to solve the problem at the lake. This, am I right, Jack? Isn't that what brought this up? We brought,
Yes, you are correct.
right. So that, I mean.
Right, and
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. It is not just for the lake, but what brought this whole thing up, because we were trying to figure out, how if there were things, is there any money out there? I think is what I said that we could find, and this and Jack had this, found this. So, I would say, I'm saying right now, we're just trying to do one step at a time here. And if somebody, they're going to have to go to a town meeting to approve this. For one thing, this has to be approved at a town meeting. This whole thing.
Well, yeah, so that assumes
So-
that we don't currently have it in place now. My belief is that unless the account quote unquote went dry, my belief is that we have been active with this in recent years. Because in my recollection, I believe there were a couple of residents that took advantage of it
Right.
and took out loans from
Okay.
this program.
Right. Oh, regardless,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, at this point, what we were trying to do is solve the lake problem. We're trying to keep the lake as pristine as it, and if it, whatever, whoever needs this, again, if they're far afield and someplace else and, they need it, fine. But at this point, we were trying to establish how many septic systems were failing on the lake. That was what it was generated by.
Yeah, this is a mechanism that we wanted to confirm could potentially be available if we found through our investigative processes that we are looking to implement. And this is for Lonnie's knowledge. We're going to look to implement an investigative process, Lonnie, to determine if indeed all the septic systems along the lake are functional and operational. And if we did happen to come across a system that was not working properly, this mechanism of financial support could be presented as a way that they could get it repaired and not, incur any kind of overly too much of a financial burden, let's say. But they could do it in a way that they could take care of the problem so that we could address keeping the lake healthy and at the same time correct an issue without too much of a financial burden for that particular homeowner.
Right. However, the fact remains, if they have a failed septic system, they have to repair it.
Yes.
That is the bottom line. And this whole thing is, if they have a failed septic system, it has to be repaired.
Right.
One way or the other.
Alan?
Yeah, I just wanted to, echo a little bit about what Tom said, is that we just wanted to make sure that we had a resource in place to assist anybody. And the other thing, Tom, is maybe we are still involved with this program, but if we haven't used it for a while, I wonder if it goes dormant.
Yeah.
Again, to confirm how much is available,
Yeah.
what the rate is, and what the procedure is, so that let our residents know resource that's available. And, to what Joyce said, obviously, we're going to be putting this panel together to talk about the health of the lake and to try to improve and maintain the health of the lake. This is an important resource to have, to offer someone who's in the position that has to repair their system because it doesn't meet the standards or it is not functioning correctly. Right away, we can, offer this and say, hey, we can help you help yourself.
Yeah, I
Thank
would think the
And keep
two,
the lake clean.
yeah, I would think the two mechanisms that we have available to validate the existence of the program, one would be, of course, that gentleman, Jack, that you've been dealing with, that's giving you some preliminary information on the program.
Ashroff?
Yeah, as
Yep.
someone who could validate that, yes, Mendon is in this program and maybe determine the sum of money that currently exists. And the other mechanism for validation might also be across the street, because I'm sitting in our BOH office right now, at the town hall, where we could maybe get confirmation from either
From
Kim
Jody.
and or
Well,
Jody.
Jody, yeah.
Yeah, Jody at the financial side, she might know right off the fingertips that whether or not the program is active with us.
Okay.
Any other comments on this issue?
I'm good at the moment.
Looks like nobody's raising their hand.
Any old business we need to talk about? Contract from CMRK? I see Richard has his hand raised.
Richard? You're on mute, Richard.
Sorry.
All right.
I noticed there was no mention about rodent control. Is that problem gone away? Are you not hearing complaints?
You were reading my mind, Richard. I was just going to bring that up.
It's second on our list of old business.
Or do you cover that? Is that what
No,
happened?
we're gonna.
No, we haven't got there yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's on our agenda. Alan is looking at a form that kind of has an order of items. He's just kind of hitting it one at a time, but don't go anywhere. That's on the discussion coming up.
Right. Can I ask another question on the roosters?
Please.
If all of a sudden another neighbor has a problem with the crowing, what do we do? Are there procedures in place now?
Well, in my view, we can act on it as a nuisance. So if it comes up and you feel that there's a rooster issue or what would be a noise issue, that is impacting the residents to the point where it's creating, harm to their way, their use of property and their what have you, just as we did with the other issue, that the Board of Health would address it as a nuisance, reach out accordingly, and take the similar steps that we did with 18B.
Okay. Thank you.
Joyce, Alan, thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. One day at a time, one rooster after the other. Hopefully not, though.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I would be in agreement also. Anybody in the community that finds themselves in a situation like that, that can't work it out with their neighbor first, I would always suggest talking to your neighbor, if at all possible, and trying to work it out at that level first. And then, we would have to follow similar procedure that we followed here with
The old
making a
hen.
visit and advising them of better animal husbandry practices to try to control the situation. Thank you.
All right, so.
All right,
back
Jack,
to-
back
Yes,
to number one on old business, CMRK. Did we receive a contract?
I got the contract. We just need to find out how many bins we want. Are we doing bins in the town of Mendon?
I
Well,
would say
I think-
yes. Yeah,
I think bins would be good, but we have to talk with the people who oversee the sites where we think we want to have them. So obviously, if we were going to put one down at the, I'll call it the scrap metal site down at the town highway barn, we'd have to talk to Alan and find out where we could put it. And then if we were going to put one at the senior center, we'd have to talk to Amy. If we were going to put one the town hall area, right now it's kind of under construction, so we'd, have to kind of, maybe we'd have to hold off on one for the town hall, even discussion of it right now, but
yeah.
maybe we could get two.
yeah.
We could get two right away, one at the senior center, the highway barn, and get the home pickup going. And
The home
we
pickup
could,
The home pickup is active.
okay,
It's just a matter of the bins now, how many we want and where we're gonna place them.
Because now there's a
Well-
bin across the street for me. And I don't know who puts that there, but it's like a 3-compartment bin and they have requirements of what you can put in there. And that's like,
Is that at the-
near the Muffin House?
Yes,
you go
yes.
into,
private property,
yeah,
if we wanted to put one there,
right,
we'd have to speak to the property owner.
right.
I'm thinking
yeah.
of town-owned property.
Oh, okay,
I
sorry.
mean, the other places we could probably investigate. I'm more than willing to start with 2 bins to get started, make sure that they're properly maintained and clean, but we could always talk to the school department if we wanted to, one at Clough and one at Misco in the future.
Yeah,
But I believe I have to look back to my notes for a town this size. I thought they were saying 3 bins may be ideal. So we could knock 2 off right away.
right,
Permission from Amy and we get permission from Alan.
right,
The one at the senior center you'd have access to 24/7. The one at the highway barn have some restrictions on it. That might only be able to be open
On Saturdays.
12, because I don't know if Alan's going to want the public in and out of there when he's trying to operate during the week.
right.
Right.
So that one might have some restrictions on it, but we could at least get started with 2 out of the 3 that was suggested for this size town. See how it goes.
Right.
Most people are going to want home pickup if it's available, and if they respond quickly.
What do you think about the library?
That's a
I'd
good
like,
third spot.
I'd like to see them have a book drop off too, like they used to have at the high school, the middle school. For books. Because they
say
did,
they would take books,
they did mention that. It was part of their
but I
thing.
believe they have to be boxed.
Correct,
That would have to be part of the home pickup program.
correct.
Oh, okay,
So it is available.
okay,
Wouldn't be available in those
Right.
bins, but the
Right, yeah.
library is another great location, and that would be available 24/7.
right.
So maybe the library,
I think that would be better than,
the center. 2
We lost you.
24/7.
Your audio
The
cuts
3
in and out
sites
there.
meant- Yeah, it's me. It's user error, really. 24/7, senior center 24/7, and the highway barn Saturday 8 to 12. I think that would be, adequate to get started.
Okay,
We want to make sure they're maintained. We want to make sure that they don't turn into a junk drop off. I mean, we got to rely on the users using them properly.
right.
Well, how about if we just force the issue as as a user-only program and not worry about bins at all.
Well, you know what's happening. I mean, there are things that need bins. You know that I think that bins are a good thing to have. I really do.
There may be somebody who does some heavy duty cleaning on Saturday, and Sunday morning they want to put it in the bin. They
That's a
don't
good
want to
point.
wait for
Yeah.
their appointment, you know, that because they're trying to clean things out. And then there are going to be people that are going to be very happy to make an online appointment to have their stuff picked up. So, you know, we could cover both bases, and we could, you know, tweak it, things, you know, progress. But we certainly, you know, need to get permission from the people that oversee the sites we'd like to put them on as to where
Yep.
they want them. And then we have to hope that CMRK, as they said, responds to any complaint in any one of these boxes in the time frame that they said they would respond, and it was pretty quick. That, you know, they would have the situation worked out. So let's test the waters,
Okay.
sites, and the home pickup. Do we need to sign that contract, Jack?
I did talk with, I forget her name off the top of my head. I told her tonight we would be discussing the bin location before I signed the contract, because it does mention the bins on the contract. So I told her we'd be talking about it tonight before anything was signed. But she said the online is available for the town of Mendon.
Okay, good.
Because I don't know if
Lonnie
signing the
can tell us-
contract holds us to the bins.
Okay, maybe Lonnie can answer the question. Is that something else that town council should put their eyes on before we sign it?
At least maybe just have Kim review it, and then if she has questions, we can get with council. But maybe just have Kim review it first to save the council cost. If it's not.
Nope, that's fine with me. I'm sure it's fine with the rest of the board. Sure, it's a very standard boilerplate type contract, but definitely having someone put their eyes on it would be helpful. Thank you. All right, Jack, I think we talked that one out. We already covered rodent control and roosters. Any updates on tobacco enforcement?
I don't think we've
haven't-
covered rodents thoroughly yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As long, if you want to go to that topic, I would just want to
No.
ask, I know based on our last conversation, we talked about trying to put together some sort of informational packet that we could put out to folks. I didn't know where we might
Didn't-
stand on that.
Talk about trying to mail that out to everybody.
Yeah, I believe we were talking about a townwide mailing.
Kind of a bulk program.
Right. But have we determined though the information that we want to put out there to cover the bases that were kind of talked about in previous discussions? What we want to offer the public as best practices?
I don't believe we've drafted a document.
Jack, have you had an opportunity to do anything yet?
The only thing that I had to do with the rats was the two flyers. One was from, let me double check the website now.
Town of West Boylston, maybe?
I think that the fact that we've had a lot of rain and we're gonna have rain again tomorrow, that goes a long way to helping with that, with the situation.
Yeah.
I kind of firmly believe that the drought played a huge impact this season as to why the
Right,
rodents, the rats were as predominant as they were. I think that was a great point that was raised by the gentleman from Feeds and Needs. He has some great insight. He might be someone too that we may want to kind of connect with in terms of putting this informational packet together.
Yeah, the only
I
thing
thought
I
it was very interesting.
Yeah, the
All
only thing
righty.
that I put together was the flyer with about how to store your food, keep the areas clean and stuff like that, and the West Boylston and what they put out. Those two things are on the Board of Health website as well. But that's all I've done.
And was there anything about, I know different methodologies came up, from, use outside of using a quote unquote poison element, which was not deemed to be very nature friendly, but other mechanisms that could be incorporated to help mitigate. I think Penny, one of the residents, mentioned a product that has to do with, you could put out, it helps reduce the reproduction.
Yeah, that's called ContraPest. That's on
Yeah,
the
right.
that's on the flyer that I did for the Board of Health.
Okay. Yeah, so whatever we, something, I just want to make sure that we're covering all our bases and what we put out to people.
I bought some of that, the ContraPest there. So I'm
Oh, did
hoping-
you?
Yeah, I did. Hoping that it's going to work. I mean, I didn't have any problem except for the fact that after I said I didn't have any problem, there was one in the street right next to my house, dead. But I mean, I haven't seen, usually you know what they're doing. They're leaving damage and stuff like that. I haven't seen it, but I thought just on the safe side, I will do that because I have cats and I don't want to put any kind of poison out because
Yeah.
then they, not good. But
Alan?
I'll do that.
I thought it was very interesting, some of the research that Rip Sokol from Feeds and Needs had done, and how he determined which animal feeds they seem to be attacking. And, there are probably a lot of residents that might not feed their animals or stray animals outside. I'm talking, more or less cats and dogs. And I wasn't aware of how attractive those feeds were to rats. And obviously, Rip had done the research. So if we don't do a mailer, obviously we can't use the crier like we would like to. We definitely should put as much information on our site as possible. Because just because we're receiving good amounts of precipitation now that might create water sources out in the woods and in the forest where we're not going to notice these animals, if they've been used to coming to more residential areas, it doesn't mean they won't return. So the amount of these rodents and the ability for them to frequent homeowners' properties might not go away because they have found new sources. And if they stay in these residential areas and continue to multiply, their offspring are going to know backyard is town turf. So
Well, that'd be the
we
point in getting out the information to everyone that would, include like a product that someone could put out that's going to help attack the reproduction side of things with regard to rats.
Absolutely. I believe I heard the town of Newton was trying to do something as a town, kind of town-wide to combat the problem. And we did have a caller, a young lady from, I believe it was the Daniels Road neighborhood that, kind of stressed that she could probably keep them at bay on her property. But if neighbors didn't do anything, then it wasn't going to be a long-term solution. I believe she's the one that mentioned the dry ice method. I believe Rip Sokol mentioned the bucket of water.
Yeah, so those are
Process.
methodologies that I could see us including in an informational flyer or, letter that we put out, things like that, dry ice, the water bucket, things like, incorporate those elements. They were great suggestions.
All right, so Steve, you mentioned you had some prior experience with bulk mailing rates and maybe how to acquire one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to the Mendon Post Office, see if the town of Mendon either has a bulk indicia. I want to ask Amy how she gets her newsletters out, if it just goes to her seniors or does it go around to the towns? I'm not too sure. But I do need to find out if the town of Mendon has a postal indicia about bulk mailing. I was also looking into what they call every door direct mail. Doesn't matter of an address, as long as you have an address in the town, it will go to everybody. Basically, what the E.L. Harvey sends out as a schedule for the new trash schedule. It just says current
Yep.
resident
Yep.
Mendon. So I'm thinking of that, doing that. But again, that's going to require an indicia, which is basically the stamp on the top right-hand corner of the mail piece. But that's at a reduced cost. But we have to fill out an application, that type of thing.
Well, I do believe from a financial perspective, I think in our budget structure, Jack, we do have an element of postage or mailing that's highlighted as a line item, money
Yeah.
allocated for that area.
Yeah,
Not
that's
sure what the
$500.
It's 500. Okay, I wasn't sure of the amount. Okay.
Yeah, we had done the math quick, and it was it like $1,800 for postage when we did the math real quick. So
It depends on whether or not you were utilizing my up-to-date knowledge of the cost of a stamp.
hey, I go to you, Tom. That way I can blame you for bad information.
It was
No.
wishful
So-
thinking on my part.
All right. So Jack, I would say, just for our information, if it's something we don't have, we should know how to get one.
Yeah.
And we should know what the rate is, to send out, a single page. Just like, we do with the trash.
Yep.
Single page, printed both sides, folded in thirds.
Yep.
Let's proceed, and then we'll know how much room we have so that we can make something up and get it out there.
Lonnie?
Thank you.
Sorry, I walked away for a sec, but I think you're talking about postage for a mailer.
Yeah.
Hang on, I can tell you right now. I just sent that flyer out for the town party.
And that goes to all
Yeah.
residents of Mendon?
I did. I can tell you what it is. It's really easy to figure out too. You just go onto the USPS website and you just
Yep.
click all of our roads and the post office. So I want to
Yep.
say the roads, all the roads minus the PO boxes were, because I just forgot to click them, was like 500 and change, close to 600. And then obviously you have to add in the PO boxes, and then whatever the printing cost was for me. So I think it was close to like $1,100 with printing enough to be handed out everywhere, minus the PO boxes. And they said there's about 300 PO boxes.
All right, so you did exactly what I was talking about. He did the every door direct mail.
That's the one. Yep.
Yep, there we go. So there we go. Yeah. Yeah, so if we do that, I use a printing company called Got Print. It's what I found cheapest around here. Not around here, but for printing purposes. I believe Ann Mazar uses Tiger Press, but I compared what they were costing out for the mosquito flyer that we've done and what Got Print could do. It's relatively about $200 cheaper.
Awesome.
We like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever we can do to make it happen. And we have to kind of stress, as some of our callers have stressed, that it's a team effort to reduce the population. If not, we'll be dealing with this every year. It'll be on our agenda forever.
Okay.
So, and we'll just have to find the money somewhere. Like Tom's very confident that it's in our budget. I'm a believer, Tom.
You got it, baby.
I don't trust him since he thought the stamp was 37 cents.
We could send them, you could send a postcard.
Lonnie, help me, help me.
All right. Have we satisfied rodent control?
I
And I
believe
would
so.
just only, I would, yeah, I think from our standpoint, I just put it out there. Richard, did you have any other questions on the topic as you had brought it up, or anyone else out there have a question on that topic or concern?
No, all
thought?
set. I'm all
Okay.
set. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Any updates or anything we need to talk about tobacco enforcement? I think that's under control and
Yep, I have not heard from Jody at all, so I think she said it's usually about, she already done her first visit, the educational visits to everybody. But I think she says she waits like another 3 to 4 weeks before she goes in and checks to make sure that they're still following the laws. So I don't think
all
that,
right.
I don't think that time frame is up yet.
All right, sounds good. So the only other thing I see that we haven't talked about in old business is the Hastings Street project. Any update on that?
I have not received any new perk testing at all for that area.
Has,
All right.
has Stephen done it yet? You know?
I do not know. He does not tell me when he does it. He schedules it with whoever's requesting the application.
Right.
Have they
Right, but
actually
Joyce, you want-
submitted an application?
They did submit a new one, yes. I
They
believe
did.
it was last week, yes.
Okay,
Alan?
If you get a chance to talk to Stephen, please remind him that I want to be there.
Okay. Alan?
Just going to bring that point up that Joyce wanted to be involved with that. So
Yep.
we need to make sure that Steve keeps Joyce in the loop. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's, if there isn't anything else that we need to discuss, let's set the next meeting, please.
Tom Fickner has his hand raised.
yeah, a quick question on a property, 49 Milford Street. From our perspective, Jack, do you know if that, is that moving along as planned?
What was the address?
49 Milford?
Let's see.
What property is that, Tom?
That would be what's going to be the new adult entertainment facility.
I want to
Can't
say
wait to get
Tom
us-
Ryder.
Can't, can't wait to.
No,
get
I was just
Pete up.
curious. No, I wasn't looking to rush it along. I was just curious how things were going, if there were any, where it stood. That's all. I wasn't looking to move it along
The
any faster.
foundation.
Nope. Yesterday, Tom Ryder approved their application for the septic system. I reached out to Dale McKinnon from Guare and Howland, who's the designer. They did not have any installer information, so I told them I need to have the installer information before I can issue a permit, but the permit has been approved by Tom Ryder.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
So-
moving right along. I make a motion, we adjourn.
The
I'll
next meeting
second.
first.
Second.
Yeah,
Whoa!
yeah.
Where's my flag?
Got to do one of these, Alan. One of these timeout symbols.
Okay, next meeting, please.
The next meeting will be from 2 weeks from today, would be October 5th.
Okay, by me. Are we keeping the same start time?
October 5th, 7 PM. Person, both.
You cut out again, Alan.
No.
Both.
We didn't hear, all we heard was, well, well,
Wait a minute, I can read your lips, Alan. You want how much? You want a beer? Sorry.
Remote
Yes,
or
Remote.
both?
Joyce, Tom, any particular preference? Do you want to have a remote in person?
It would be good for me if it's remote because my granddaughter's having a C-section that day, so I'd be happy to be able to be remote,
Yeah,
if that's
Yep.
fine.
that's fine with me. Hope all that goes well and a new little one in the world.
Yes, yes, little
Nice.
girl, another girl,
Nice.
another Gilmore girl.
Excellent.
Chuck, one more
Can't
up
have
for
too
the
many-
for you folks, you ladies. All right, Joyce. All right, we'll give you that one.
Can't have too many girls, right, Tom?
That's right. That's right.
All right, so do we get a motion and do we get a second?
Yeah, Joyce motioned and I second.
Okay.
Good night, all. Thank you very much.
Good night,
All
thank
in
you.
favor? Yay,
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
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 aye. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.